Father, the Son, the Spirit, who's Christ and Him crucified. He's the bread of life, He's that new creation, the everlasting one. The Lord is come, who will declare Him, who will declare His name. The Lord is come, who will declare Him, He is come in His church. the living God. Blessed be the name of the living God. Let his name be exalted in all the earth.
hold it. All right, thank you, Jim. I just need to make some quick announcements. And those announcements are for you who are watching us by on the internet, and it is with regard to some meetings that I have, 3 times canceled and then had to change because of something either on our end here or on the end there. I was just sitting here looking at, generally these meetings are scheduled for like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Sometimes they're during the whole week, but most of the time they're in Tazewell, Virginia, in Culpeper, Virginia, in a couple of places in North Carolina and so forth. Generally we'll be there like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I drive home on Monday. And I was just looking at my calendar here for October. On October the 3rd, I have that I would be driving home on Monday. Again, October the 10th, that I would be driving home on Monday. And once again, October the 17th, that I'd be driving home on Monday. Not only was I not driving home, but I never got out there. And but I had expectations of being there in these meetings. And so the reason I'm saying this is that there's a number of you who come. There's a number of you who come to those meetings when the meetings are scheduled there, and I had to make a number of phone calls to let many of you know that we weren't having the meeting there after all. So I thought, well, I'll just make a brief announcement this morning, since I'm supposed to be in Tazewell right now in a meeting, and obviously I'm not there. And we are looking at dates now toward the very end of this month. We're looking at some dates, the 28th, 29th, and 30th. And then if not that, the dates very early in November, but I'm not going to start throwing numbers at you. Those in the local areas there, of course, receive the dates from the local churches. So I was talking to Brother Wayne Shelton. He called me about 2 or 3 days ago. He had to leave for London, England, because of the position he carries with his company. But Wayne is the pastor there in Culpeper. And so when he gets back, we will be talking concerning meetings in that area there with, as we have done for years, with Brother Henry Stanley and the fellowship that is there. And Wayne is now the interim pastor there. So I just wanted to take this little time because it's really confused a lot of people by announcing, yes, we'll be there, and then not have the meetings at all. So there has, like I say, there have been problems that would come up that had to be dealt with on both ends, not only in those places, but right here where I couldn't get away and be gone during that time that we had already scheduled. So sometimes we do that, very rarely. Usually scheduling pretty well follows through as it has been appointed. And maybe we can continue to do that in in the Virginia area, and also very possible in part of North Carolina. But all of that is up in the air right now concerning the timing of when I could be there, and when when the folks that are there, because everyone likes to be able to come on in those times, and if they already have plans, then we try to work around some of that. So, the Lord bless you, and now Brother Jimmy Collins will be speaking today, and so he can come and take this pulpit right now. I just asked a while ago, I told him I needed to make an announcement or two concerning these meetings that we did not have and meetings that we might yet have. And again, we may yet be there toward the end of October or the very 1st of November, and we'll have that that understanding, or we'll have that announcement for you when the time comes. Jimmy, thanks a million. We'll have to get you.
That's all right. I'm not going to use this one. I'm going to use that one over there.
Oh,
Yeah, because I've already. Testing 1, 2, 4. Good morning, everyone here, everyone online. I know that everyone online heard Brother Lumen's announcements concerning meetings, and hopefully you can still hear me. We'll find out. There's several different things that are on my heart. One of them is just kind of a little bit of a continuation from the last time that I spoke. I think I ended with a little bit concerning the journey of Abram, the journey of Abraham. And so I want to real quick, just kind of I'll do this. So with Abraham, he's known as the father of faith. And of course, he takes this journey that the Lord draws him. The Lord actually brings him every step of the way. I did a series with Abraham a while back, lasted several years. And the journey is the journey of the heart. The moment of new birth, the moment that the God of glory appears in a soul, that very moment, that very soul is translated from the kingdom of darkness to the kingdom of the Son of His love, because Christ Himself has appeared in the soul. That does not change. That cannot be lost. What God has done, man cannot undo whatsoever. What God has joined, man cannot separate either. But then there's this little thing concerning our heart. And the heart is usually what lags behind. And with Abraham, in Acts, I think it's Acts chapter 7, Stephen says, the God of glory appeared unto our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia, before he dwelt in Haran. And so the God of glory appears while Abram at the time, is dead among the dead. He was in his father Terah's house. Terah, we know he was an idol worshiper. He was not only an idol worshiper, he was an idol maker. He fashioned images of gods, and that's how he made his living. And so this is what Abram grew up in, and I think some of that had to do, well, let me read the verse first, because this is kind of it's not some of it had to do with it, but I believe all of it had to do with it. And this is concerning the place, the purpose, and the provision. And concerning a soul on the earth, like Abram at the time when he was in Ur of the Chaldees, God has provided all that we need to discover, to encounter the very person of his Son. At whatever place, wherever place, at whatever time. In Acts chapter 17, verses 24 through 28, this is what Paul says. He says, the God who made the world and all things in it, since he is Lord of heaven and earth, does not dwell in temples made with hands, nor is he served by human hands as though he needed anything, since he himself gives to all people life and breath and all things. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on the face of the earth. And that one man, of course, is Adam. He goes on, having determined their appointed times and the boundaries of their habitation. That's basically, every single person, whether born again or not, is where they are because that is what God has determined for them. But the determination is always with purpose. In order that, for the purpose of, they would seek God, if perhaps they might grope for him. And the word grope is basically like a blind man feeling about in darkness like this, trying to find something that he can't see, possibly something he doesn't even know. But it's like a blind man. That they would seek God if perhaps they might grope for him and find him. And that's the key. The place, the purpose, and the provision. In every place, there is a purpose. And it is God's purpose. It's not our purpose. And I think that we have goals as non-believers. We have goals as believers, as those who are born again. We have goals. And this is just the way it is. Our goals are on the earth. Whether they have to do with the Lord or whether they have to do with something else. Or whether they have to do with, like right now, I'm trying to finish some plumbing at the house. That's a goal, but it's on the earth. Okay? Our goals are on the earth. Believers' goals are on the earth. Even believers' goals to serve the Lord, know the Lord, are on the earth. God's goal is not of the earth, not bound to the earth at all. He will use whatever place, whatever time, whatever situation, whatever, is needed to accomplish his end. So Abram, in his father's house, Terah, the house of idolatry. An idol is our image of a God. Or for us true believers, our idol would be our image of God. Our image. What we believe, what we conceive with our natural mind. The same mind that every single natural man, born again or not, has. The mind of the first man, Adam. The same mind that the Jews were submitted to when Jesus showed up and Jesus declared, I am, and the religious leaders declare blasphemy. Because they had an image and the very Son of God did not meet their image. So that's all an idol is. It's our concept of God, what we believe God looks like, what we believe God is, but it's all this with the natural mind, the mind of the first man, Adam, all right, which is still bound to the earth. So here's Abram at the time, in his father's house. And this is what governed the household, the house of Terah, idolatry. I think in the last time I spoke, idolatry was basically, I think I said something like a zeal for God without the knowledge of God. Idolatry is our zeal for God based upon our knowledge. The knowledge that every single person has, the knowledge of the first man, Adam. My mind, your mind, but it's not the mind of Christ. It's not the eternal mind. Okay? So even though here's Abram, and I love it because every step of the way it is based, everything of God concerning man is based upon God's mercy. If God does not take the initiative, nothing happens. God, behind the scenes, moves upon the ground of the heart to stir in our heart some desire to know the living God. I think last time I talked about how there was a scene played out that the Jews believe was what happened with Abram. How, he basically set up a scene with a bunch of his father's idols and left one idol standing. And when his father shows up, he's like, well, what happened to my idols? And Abram is like, well, this one got mad and basically killed them all. And then so Terah's like, what do you mean? He's just an idol. Dumb, mute, doesn't do anything. And so the conversation with back and forth, like Abram then says, if he's dumb and mute and not a God, why do you worship him? And so in something like that, there was something already happening behind the scenes in Abram's heart. This is the Lord doing what no man can do. Because had the Lord not stepped in, Abram would have continued in his father's footsteps. Worshiping idols, possibly building, fashioning, making idols. Right? Business to business to business, from generation to generation to generation. So it requires a miracle of God for anything of God concerning man to happen. And so the Lord appears, the God of glory appears unto Abraham while he was in Ur of the Chaldees, in his father's house. The moment the God of glory appears, and you can search this out, to me, it's like a type of being born again. The soul is immediately translated, brought unto where God is. Because God is present, now the soul is present in life, righteousness, all these terms, peace, love, all these terms, all right? So immediately, when the God of glory appears, Abram's translated. What comes next is the journey of the heart. The heart coming to where God has already brought the soul in reality, the moment of new birth. I call it reality and the knowledge of reality, because the knowledge of reality is not our knowledge. It's our heart coming to be submitted unto the knowledge of God, who is Christ. All right? So then Abram, his whole house, Terah's whole household comes, and they come as far as Haran. But remember, the God of glory appeared to Abram. Right? The God of glory appeared to Abram. In Ur the Chaldees, the Lord appears. In Haran, here, Abram was dead among the dead. The God of glory appears. Now there's life. In Haran, this is the key, God does not appear unto Abram in Haran. He speaks. In fact, where is it? I know I've got these somewhere. Two different passages where the Lord is speaking to Abram. And I probably didn't jot them down where they need to be. Oh yeah. All right, so this is where God appears to Abram. The high priest said, this is Acts chapter 7. This is Stephen speaking. The God of glory appeared to our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia, before he lived in Haran. And he said, leave your country, your relatives, and come into the land that I will show you. Leave your country and your relatives. Then he left the land of the Chaldeans and settled in Haran. From there, after his father died, God moved him to this country in which you are now living. Okay. While in Haran is where Terah dies. Let me look at it. And they went out together from Ur the Chaldeans in order to enter the land of Canaan. That was where they were headed. Canaan. And they went as far as Haran. Once again, we can only go so far with our natural mind, so far by our own natural abilities, and settled there. The days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. This is Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. That was the end of Genesis 11. With verse 1, now the Lord said to Abram, go forth from your country, from your relatives, and, he adds this, your father's house, to the land that I will show you. Though Abram had come out of Ur, he was still, in a sense, in his father's house, in Terah's house. And I'll just say, his heart continued in the house of man, the house of the first man, Adam, the house that is below. The house implying government, right? The house rules, the rules of a house, what governs a household, what governs a house. You see it all throughout the Bible. He continued there. But here the Lord says, he doesn't appear. He does not appear. He says, go forth from your country and from your relatives and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. Of course, let me pick up a verse real quick, because it's actually the Lord who brings Abram to the land. And I don't have that one jotted. I didn't jot that verse down. Forgive me on that one. I've got it somewhere. So the Lord brings him out. He brings him from Haran. And you can look these up. The verses are there. He brings him from Haran and finally brings him to Canaan, where the Lord then appears. So he appears first to Abram while Abram is dead among the dead. He does not appear to Abram in Haran. He speaks to Abram in Haran. He is speaking. The voice is speaking. And when the heart turns to the Lord, the veil is removed. And the Lord brings him, the Lord brings Abram to the place where the Lord appears. Last Sunday, I kind of did this. I kind of did a big cross, and I've got above and below. The Lord brought Abram to the place, remember, the place, purpose, provision, or place, provision, purpose. The Lord brought Abram to the place where he could know him. Now I'll continue right here. The place, the purpose, and provision. On earth, God has provided all that we need to discover and encounter the person of His Son. I remember when I was in high school applying to different colleges, there was one particular college I wanted to go to, and at first they declined me. I was really upset about it because I wanted to go there really bad. So then I just started applying wherever. It's like, if I can't go to this college, I'll just go wherever. It didn't matter. I even had a scholarship to one particular college. And then at some point, I think it was like 3 weeks later, I ended up getting accepted on a preliminary basis to the college that I wanted to go to. So in my mind, I wasn't born again at the time, so in my mind what that meant, forget everybody, forget the scholarships, I'm going where I want to go. So I thought, as where I want to go. But see, looking back at it, the Lord orchestrated everything. See, man will say no, God will say, will it or will it not direct the heart, bring the heart under the person of my Son? Will it facilitate that purpose or not? And that's why whatever place, during whatever time, serves God's purpose. Acts, having determined their appointed times and the boundaries of their habitation, where you are when you are there. That, verse 27 of Acts chapter 17, they would seek God, if perhaps they might grope for Him and find Him. Well, of course, when I went to college, I was not seeking God. Because in fact, there's none who seeks God. Jesus said, except the Father draw you, you will not come to me. We must be drawn by God. God does something in the background that draws us unto His Son every single time. Every single time. Of course, I thank the Lord for that, because man has no ability. And as we go on in the Lord, we discover man still has no ability. Whether that be man who's not born again or man who is born again. No ability whatsoever. And so, at the age of 20, I was born again. I received Christ. Christ appeared in my soul, and everything changed. That's the one thing that I did know. I did know that everything changed. I just didn't know exactly what the change was. But I knew everything was different. My, you will call it, my passion, my desire that I had originally was not there, which kind of scared me a whole lot. Because if you live your whole life for one thing, and then all of a sudden that's not there anymore, and you know you didn't do it, what now? What next? I was where I was, and we are where we are, first and foremost, for the God of glory to appear. Christ appears where He wasn't there before. God bringing us, drawing us to a place, whatever place that may be, that Christ may appear, the God of glory. From that moment onward, the Spirit of God still doing His work behind the scenes upon the ground of our heart, doing what we have no clue that He's doing, because we think He would be doing this, or this, and we even would pray for this goal, this goal, this goal. But remember, as I stated earlier, our goals are found and bound to the earth. And that's okay. That's fine. That's just the way it is. God's goal, on the other hand, is not. His goal is above. He created the soul with a purpose. That purpose is His Son, nothing less than His Son. Reality, His Son. From that moment onward, the knowledge of reality. God's very own knowledge of His Son, of the reality that is present in the soul, of Christ who is present in the soul. And so, from the moment of new birth, now God continues providing everything that is necessary. That's why I know this happened to me, probably to you all in different ways. I found myself within a week after being born again, I found myself with a Bible. I didn't ask for it. It was given to me. And I thought, well, I guess I'll start reading. Something that I really didn't do before. God providing all that is needed for His end, for His purpose. All right? So then, back with Abram, the God of glory appeared where He wasn't before. He had prepared the ground of Abram's heart for that one thing, for the God of glory to appear. Abram knows something has changed. He goes out in faith, not knowing, having no clue where he's going, as the Lord is bringing him. He gets as far as Haran. God does not appear, listen, God, the living God, does not appear in our ignorance. He doesn't. He doesn't. I know that I would believe He does, we would believe He does, but He does not. Our ignorance is not the place where He appears. Okay? The Holy Spirit, the Spirit of God, the Spirit of truth, continually working behind the scenes upon the ground of our heart, that our heart would turn, so that the heart may come from being submitted unto this natural mind to being submitted unto this eternal mind, the mind of Christ. The mind of Christ. The mind of Christ is not bound to that which is below. The mind of Christ is not below. The mind of Christ is above. When the heart turns to the Lord, the veil of ignorance is removed. God appears where He is. I can't remember if I shared the verse last time I spoke, but remember the women, there were some of the women that went to the burial after Jesus had been crucified and buried. They went to the burial, and then there's these two angels, and the angels basically say, two is very significant, it's a true testimony, it's a heavenly testimony, they're angels. And so they're asking them, why do you seek the living among the dead? He's not here. He is risen. And of course, they see Jesus, appear later on there. But the key word is, He is risen. He is no longer among the dead. He is risen. Moses, the Lord brings Moses out of Egypt. I know we read that he fled from Pharaoh. The Lord brought Moses out of Egypt. The Lord brought him into this wilderness of physically, of five senses, no evidence whatsoever of life, no evidence whatsoever of plenty, no evidence whatsoever of anything. And so Moses was in the desert 40 years, and then it said, don't know. Yeah, I've got it here because it didn't print my verse 5. I'll just read it. This is Exodus chapter 3, verse 1. Now Moses was pasturing the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And see, that's significant. The Lord didn't draw, lead, bring to just any place. The Lord had him at, appointed time and the boundaries of his habitation during that time for one purpose. Everything was serving that one purpose, whether Moses realized it or not. Moses was pasturing the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb. It is not by coincidence that this is where he came. In the scriptures, it doesn't mention any other time before this that Moses came here, but this time it does. Horeb, which is the mountain of God. Out of Egypt, in the wilderness, he comes above to Horeb, the mountain of God. There's a huge significance between below and above throughout the scriptures. All right. Then, of course, verse 2, the angel of the Lord appeared to him. The angel of the Lord did not appear while he was in the wilderness. He appeared when he came above to Mount Horeb, the mountain of God. And so all these things happening, the place, the time, serving the purpose. Oh, here we go. The goal of being where we be, at whatever place, at whatever time, when we're there. The purpose of God for us being where we are is to discover and know the one who is present, to know Jesus Christ in a way that we have not known him before. To discover and know Jesus Christ is the purpose of God in whatever place and whatever time. That's God's goal. To find, discover, and know the Lord who fills both heaven and earth. And even in the natural, and see, as I stated, this is God's goal. This is not our goal. This is his goal. His goal is always his son. Our goal is always something less. That's okay. That's the quicker, the sooner we settle that there's none who seeks after God, then the faster our big stop sign comes down and basically says, okay, Lord, by your Spirit have your way, because I, like a sheep, go my own way. All right? And so, even in the natural, if you think about this, from the very moment when a child's born into a natural creation, they're discovering and learning the world around them, their environment, their creation, where they live. This is what they're discovering. This is what they're learning about. Oh, what's that? The constant questions, at least I had them. I know I had them. What's this? Okay, so if that's that, why that? Or why this? Learning about the way things are in a natural creation. This is the way God intended it for it to be. For the soul it is born again. But the discovering isn't in the creation, the natural creation below, and it's not in what we believe with our natural mind. The creation to be discovered is his very Son above, where he draws our heart time and time again out from below, out from where the living is not found, but out unto the place where he is found above. The place and the purpose. There's a thought, or it's a I think it's an idiom. And I remember as a newborn believer, at some point, I heard this phrase, and you guys may have heard it. I heard it on and off. And one was, and I need to find these phrases. Yeah. One was where the rubber meets the road. And at the time in the particular fellowships I'd been a part of, they would share something, and then all of a sudden, and where the rubber meets the road. And well, that's an idiom, and it basically means something like, I don't want to use another idiom. I know I've got it somewhere around here. Yeah. And the thought is this. I'll kind of explain it because I can't find where I jotted it down. I've got this other idiom that I don't want to lose track of it. Where the rubber meets the road would be used this way. Be sharing all this glorious gospel of Christ, and then all of a sudden says, but where the rubber meets the road, it's like, make it practical, make it quote unquote real, but make it where practical, make it where real, and it's always down here below. And with that phrase, if you think about it, where the rubber meets the road, all it does is it reveals where our hearts are living. Because it's trying to apply, trying to make real something that is very true where we believe we live, in our hearts. Prefaced, in our hearts, where we believe we live. And so a lot of times when the phrase would come across, it was always down here, below, to be applied down here, below, but everything that God has declared is not to be applied down here below, but it's applied to His very Son. To walk in faith is not to walk down here below, knowing whether to turn left or to turn right or to go forward or to take a step back and then a U-turn. No. To walk in faith is to walk in the land of the living above. That's walking in faith. Just as Abram did. He walked in faith. He walked throughout the length, the breadth, the height, the width. The Lord led him. Because that's what He says in another passage. I led your father Abraham throughout the land, the length, the breadth, the height, the width. But remember the place and the purpose. When Abram walked throughout the entirety of the land, he discovered the Lord, the one who is present. There's another, this is the other idiom that I was thinking of. And I was thinking about this, and I heard this several years ago. And you may or may have not heard this, but two, as in T-O-O, I misspelled it, too heavenly minded and of no earthly good. Has anyone ever heard that phrase? I did. The other one is too earthly minded and of no heavenly good. And then there needs to be a balance. And there's no such thing as too heavenly minded of no earthly good. There's no such thing. All that is, all those phrases that I just read are a natural mind, a heart submitted to a natural mind, trying to take that which God has sealed in the person of His Son and apply it someplace else. with those phrases, too heavenly minded to be of no earthly good, it was usually in the, what do you call it, the context of evangelism. And my thought concerning evangelism has greatly evolved. I'll say it this way, yours has probably evolved as well. But to the degree that we're knowing the Lord will be to the degree that there is evangelism, whether we realize it or not. In fact, our knowing of Christ will affect all the other actions that we would run after, that we would try to do, all the other actions that are found in Haran. Because remember, when Abram was in Haran, the Lord continued, as he continues with all of us, moving upon the ground of the heart, to bring Abram from in his heart dwelling in one place to his heart dwelling where the Lord had intended his heart to dwell in the place where the Lord had originally brought him the moment the God of glory appeared. When the Lord finally brought Abram, remember, Abram did not come alone. Abram, because right here, remember the Lord mentioned the household? Abram left his father's household for the Lord's household. Abram was now in the Lord's household. Abram knows now what governs the house. Sarai came, Lot came, but it also mentions a whole lot from Haran came as well. And there's the evangelism. As Abram went on to know the Lord, as the Lord drew Abram unto himself, not only did he come, his wife came, Lot came, and others came. But now they're no longer in the house of Terah. They're in the house of the Lord. Abram knows what governs the house of the Lord. The Lord appears in the house. The head of the household appears. The head appears. And this is where Abram continued. And so now you have Isaac, Abram's son, and Isaac is now learning from his father Abram, not what governs the house of Terah, the house of the first man, but he's learning what governs the house of God. And so, and it's not strange for Isaac for the Lord to appear unto Isaac in such a manner that Isaac becomes this beautiful testimony of Christ when Abram offers him upon the altar. They continue, Abram, Isaac, and now with Jacob. Jacob also begins to learn what governs the house. Because remember, even as in the natural, the child, as they grow, as they're born and as they are growing, they are always continually learning and discovering everything of their world, everything of their environment, everything of the place where they live. Isaac was born in the land, Jacob was born in the land. This is what they are discovering because of Abram. And so now, when the Lord first appears to Jacob, it's not a strange thing. He knows what governs the house. The God of glory appears to Jacob, and he says this, I am the God of your father Abraham, the God of your father Isaac. And so to Jacob, it's not a strange thing. He knows, okay, this I've heard. This is the way it is. I've heard, and now I know. And so his heart, I guess if you will, came to be submitted not to the natural mind, not to what governed the house of Terah, but to what governs the house of God. In the place and now beginning to serve the purpose. And yes, I know that at some point Jacob does go to Haran but then he comes back, and that's very specific that he goes to Haran to find a wife and brings the wife back. That's actually a testimony of Christ. Let's see if we've got. And so the Lord continually be working behind the scenes upon the ground of our heart, to bring our heart from our expectations unto His expectation, from, I guess you could even say, to even see the purpose of what He's doing, what He is doing and where He is doing it in every place and at every time. Even when it seems like He may not be doing anything at all, He's working behind the scenes for that one end. Just as He worked with Abram while he was in Ur of the Chaldees, and He worked with the ground of the heart of Abram, and He continues to work with the ground of Abram while he's in Haran, to bring him to his ultimate end. And that's really all that I had in a really jumbled way, but it's just, there's a natural place that the Lord can use to serve His purpose. And that purpose is ultimately realized in the place that He has chosen in His Son, where He's actually brought us. There's no coincidence that the God of glory did not appear to Abram while he was in Haran. As I mentioned it, He does not appear in our ignorance. He brings us out. As He brought Abram, He brought him forth abroad, out from. From our heart being submitted to our natural mind, to our heart being submitted to the mind of Christ. And it's not so much that we see as God sees. No, we never see as God sees. We never know as God knows. It's either His seeing and His knowing, or it's our seeing and it's our knowing. But God's seeing and God's knowing is His very Son. He's brought us the moment of new birth. He's brought us to the place with purpose. And His Spirit works behind the ground of our heart, so that purpose may be realized in our heart. To discover, I like the word discover, to know the one who is present. That's all I had. So please present this to the Holy Spirit, our true teacher. Let Him do what He desires to do, take what He desires to take for God's end and God's purpose. Amen? Amen.